Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet. Today I want to pose a particular moral quandary which has been affecting me in recent days. I record this thing called Model Rail Radio. Some of you may have heard of it. It's a podcast associated with the hobby of model railroading. And within the space of model railroading, there is a particular governing body which has been created over tens of years to establish certain standards, to maintain certain ideas within the hobby of model railroading, and also to run the hobby's US National Convention, which is, funnily enough, going on currently. Around the time of the convention each year, there are always a group of folk that can't attend the National. There's always some political nonsense. There's always some toing and froing, and generally there's a brouhaha that someone has to deal with, usually me, after everything is done and dusted at the convention. Last year it was associated with a particular individual who behaved particularly poorly. Following that, really behaved particularly poorly through the whole experience, and he and I ended up parting ways. Not directly after the conference. It took about 5 or 6 months for some true colours to come out, but, it was a bit of drama around the time of the conference. This year the drama relates to the national governing body, and also associated with how the Vice President, who has been a frequent contributor and participant on Model Rail Radio, was suspended by the governing body in very curious circumstances. This information has been made public, and I'm in a strange quandary because people are contacting me, asking me if I know what has gone on here, and really I don't know what has gone on at all. The whole thing seems rather curious, and it's indicative of actually the problem of this national organisation. On a regional level, or a group of folk that get a lot of stuff out of the national organisation. But on the national level, things get a little bit curious. Things are a little squirrely. There's a lot of stuff off in secret. No one really knows how this thing's put together. And to have this individual effectively, put on probation, because he was actually put on probation through this information, it all seems very strange and kind of unhinged. And it certainly doesn't seem like an open organisation. I mean, the National has had this problem for many years. There have been constant toings and froings. My favourite example of this was a program to put people building train layouts in Home Depot. This, from my perspective, is a no-brainer. Home Depot has a series of events that they put on for children associated with, hands-on construction. And the idea of building a layout over the Christmas period with a train sponsor and all this kind of stuff coming together just struck me as a really good way to reinvigorate model railroading as a hobby at a national level. Well, unfortunately, the National just couldn't put it together. And what happened eventually was a small number of local clubs, basically, ran this in their areas, got in the news media, made it really a very positive thing in their area. Got television news coverage, all this kind of stuff, and a bunch of kids built a bunch of layouts with their parents, and they gained these woodworking skills. The fact that the National couldn't pull this together at a national level was really very curious, and the local clubs that were able to do this were so fed up with the National, they didn't represent the National Model Railroading Association at all through what they were doing. There have been a series of other issues that have come up, some toing and froing. A lot of the electronic standards that you'd want the National to organise, they just weren't able to. Thankfully, there were open source groups that were able to contribute. But this circumstance with the Vice President, and also the fact that he's a frequent participant on Model Rail Radio, I just want to know what's going on here. And I think, on a personal perspective, it's hard to be a member of an organisation where someone can get legitimately elected who was then immediately suspended following that election with no documentation, no meaningful discussion, aside from a few sentences at a meeting, which maybe were supposed to be under wraps, but were publicly provided in very curious circumstances and now permeate the community. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.